So I've had something on my mind this morning and I just wanted to share it. It's kind of like a story, but it explains exactly what I'm doing right now in my life, what I'm working on, what I've been working on pretty much since like 2021. Yeah, anyway, since I was a kid, I've always had this like inner hole inside of me. Like I remember very clearly loving like sad poetry and emo music from a very young age, and it was always a reflection of how I felt on the inside, right? Not, and the way I acted outwardly did not match up with that. You know what I mean? And so it was a part of me that I was able to really keep to myself and only share with very few amount of people. But so what that is I carry a very, very, very deep sense of not being safe, insecure, right? Insecurity, very deep, and it is very, very loud. And that has echoed in my decisions in life, right? Not my demeanor, not the way I act towards people, but in the behaviors that I practice every single day and some of the habits that I've picked up, like substance abuse issues, because opiates hit that part of the brain that make you feel safe, right? And so I was always really attracted to them. But over my life, I've seen through like times of being on mental health medication, antidepressants, stuff like that. Those things showed me a way to live, right? They showed me what was possible, right? That I could live and not have that feeling of insecurity or that inner feeling of not being safe. You know what I mean? And I got to see how my decisions in life manifested differently when I didn't have that because I was supplementing with like Cymbalta, right? See, but me, I had to cold turkey off of Cymbalta 3 times due to like losing my insurance, because I would have insurance through work or I would have insurance through the state, and I would just either start working and lose my state insurance, or I would be working and then like lose my job for some reason. I don't know. I was very angry when I was younger, but and so there's been tons of instability, right? Because I'm trying to fix this something inside of me that makes this hole. I'm trying to, As I got a little bit older, my substance abuse, what would you call them, runs or relapses started to pick up in intensity. So by the time I was like 28 was when I had I think it was about 28, my first serious opiate addiction, and it was to kratom, right? I had already been in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and I had already seen how my use was different than other people, just because of how people would talk about their experiences, and I saw how mine was different, how I never was an everyday user. I didn't develop an opiate addiction until I was, like I said, about maybe like 25 was my first time I was ever like actually physically addicted. But then when I was like 28 and I started using kratom, that's when it really took off. But through that usage, I was introduced to medications like buprenorphine, like Suboxone, and then most recently Sublocade. So last February of 2025, I was put on Sublocade after being on Suboxone for like about a month and a half. And those medications, they showed me what it is like to live without that constant anxiety in my head affecting my choices. They showed me what it was like to live that way. However, that anxiety in my life and for what it does for me is important. I need that anxiety in my life to temper who I am, and so I can live with humility. Because if I don't live with humility, I am a product of the devil, essentially. I know that's a kind of like a symbolic statement, but that's what it is. That's where everything comes from. So last year, about March, I started realizing this. I'd been on Suboxone a few times. I'd known that it does that to me, but I was really attracted towards it because it's like it gets rid of that. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I'm free. It makes me feel like I can move in life. But it was like all of the experiences I've had of having the man, right, control the thing that allows me to feel whole, it always ends up bad. Always ends up bad. And so I remember reading this book called Into the Realm of the Hungry Ghost. It's by Gabor Mate. It's a very good book. And he talks about how the dopamine endorphin system is actually something that can become dysregulated as a child, causing a child to manifest the symptoms that I experience of just not feeling safe ever, right? But through reading other books and listening to other psychologists and stuff like that, I've learned that exposure training is the most important thing. And so it's like, how can I create exposure training with this? You know? And it's like, okay, I can learn how to live while I'm on this stuff so that I can recreate my behaviors to the best of my ability as I'm coming off of it slowly, right? Because I got my last shot in April, so I've kind of cold turkeyed off of Sublocade. But it takes so long to come out of your system that it still feels like it's being squeezed out of my system here coming up on the new year. But I knew this was going to happen, you know. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to become a different version of myself that is not driven by fear. And I'm only fucking 36, dude. You know, like, I don't know, man. Some of the most famous people out there, they didn't get started till they were like 50. I've been around the rooms of NA for long enough to know that people can change. The phoenix can rise again. And that's not limited to age or anything. We are all capable of forgiveness, and we can all rise again. And it doesn't matter when, you know? And so if that's my goal in life, then I will not stop until I get there. I don't care what I have to do. It doesn't matter. 2 years of stability, they could, you know, like, can change anything around if you just change your choices, right? So I'm making a certain set of choices right now that I feel like will be beneficial for me about 10 years from now. I don't know if they'll be beneficial soon, but I know they'll be beneficial 10 years from now, that's for sure. And that's what I'm doing. And so anybody who, I'm starting fresh. I don't want to ghost people who actually love me, but I have no room in my life for snakes. No room in my life for sharks. I can exist in the den of thieves. Yeah. But that doesn't mean any of them are welcome into my life. You know what I mean? I am me. I am sovereign. And you can get on board or you can get the fuck off. That's how I feel. And I'm going to wherever it is the good Lord's going to take me. So people can come with me. I love to give to people. I wish I could give to everyone, but I can't. Because it's just not the nature of things. It's not the way the world works. You know, but anyway, things are going fantastic. I could not be more excited to go into 2026, even if something bad were to happen, an upheaval. I would be so grateful, you know, because I have been saved. That's corny. But for real, I've lived with the devil for so long that I know that Jesus is Lord. Don't forget that. The devil is real. And that's how you know that Jesus is real.